Hello.
Hey, Coach Watts, this is Matthew, podcaster.
Oh, Matthew, how are you? Okay.
I'm good.
Calling from Florida?
I'm using a computer number, and I used to live in Florida at some point, so that's.
All right. Well, I like Ponte Verde, so
Oh
I
yeah,
want to, I tell you, we had a coaches convention there, and I caught a lot of big fish in the ponds there. So that's beside the point.
I went overseas a long time, and when I came back from overseas, one of my buddies, an IUP runner, lived down there, so I moved there, and then I'm in Toronto now.
Okay. All right. Well, we love Toronto, although our passports have been expired. We haven't been up there for a couple of years, but we love Toronto.
Let's do
Okay.
it for tomorrow morning at 10. We'll connect and see if we can pull it off.
All right. So let me ask you. So I'll go to my library, which has a good connection usually, and you'll call me at 10 o'clock.
That's the plan.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Of course, I have many good stories, and I can talk for 3 hours.
Welcome to Running in the 70s, where we interview, meet, and get to know athletes of all kind who were running in the 70s. I'm your host, Matthew Kleinowski. Today on the podcast, we're back in Western Pennsylvania with a longtime coach. Actually was quite an athlete, quite a runner, but gained his legend status by being a coach. Today on the podcast, we'll get to know Coach Doug Watts. Welcome, Coach Watts.
Glad to be here. I hope I'm some value to your listeners.
I'm sure you will be. Let's start by getting your early athletic background as a athlete, competitor, and runner before you got into coaching.
Well, I hope you have 10 minutes because I have a whole lot of stories that go along with that.
Great.
Although I'm sure my early athletics had a lot to do with who I am today. Let's start at the fourth grade when my parents moved from their apartment in the city of Akron, Ohio. And we moved not very far, miles away to a small town outside of Akron named Mogador. Mogador is an African word that means beautiful. And believe me, as a fourth grader all the way through high school, Mogador was beautiful to me. Mogador was beautiful for me because it had lakes and ponds and streams and fields and woods and tons of open areas that are so unbelievably safe by today's standard that my mother could have breakfast, give me a sandwich and probably a pack of Hostess snowballs, and let me get on my bike, and I'd be gone all day exploring, hunting. I grew up hunting, fishing. I loved trapping all the way through high school. I played Little League Baseball. Yeah, I made the All-Star team, but I wasn't a star. I think if you took baseball terms, good field, no hit would probably describe me pretty good. I remember going to junior high. I didn't have much team interaction with any of the kids in the town. The other side of town were playing football and basketball. I was hunting and fishing. So I went out for the junior high basketball team and was cut, rightfully so. I didn't have any skills. But I guess it was a little bit of my character. I volunteered to be the manager so I would have access to the gym and could practice. By the latter part of the eighth grade, where our varsity coach got rid of the JV team on the high school and let our eighth grade team play all junior varsity games at the high school varsity level, I was co-captain. Again, never a star in basketball. I guess it was like baseball. Not much offense, but boy, I could put on a show defensively. I was pretty good at doing that. The real story, the one that at least most of my audiences where I made lectures enjoy, came in my freshman year as they came out for football. Now, Mogador was a very small school, and so there weren't a whole lot of kids in the school. My class had 60 kids, and we were almost twice as large as any of the classes that came before us. But the year before, my eighth grade, Mogador was the mythical state small school, high school football champions. There were no playoffs. They were selected by newspaper guys.
Right.
Every boy in my class went out for football, every single one. I knew nothing about football, okay? So I don't remember much about the first 5 weeks, but then they won all their first 4 games, and then all kind of people got hurt. And so Monday practice comes, and the coach goes, we're going to have to find a right guard. Our good right guard separated his shoulder, so he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, so we've got to find a right guard. So we played a straight T then, a quarterback, 2 halfbacks, a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach said, all you have to be able to do is to be able to pull, take a step back, run down the right side of the line, and get ahead of the fullback before he comes through the 6 or 8 hole. I don't even care if you hit anybody, just get out of the way. So there were 18 of us, and then there was 9 of us, and then there was 2 of us. And then the coach puts his arm around me and says, Watts, you're really going to be happy. You're going to start this Friday night. Happy? I was petrified. I'm 130 pounds at most. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to play with the state championship contenders. Well, it changed on Thursday night when the coach came again, put his arm around me and said, Doug, I know you're going to really be disappointed, but we've decided to move the fullback up into the guard position and only play with 10 guys on offense.
Wow.
With me, I didn't have a problem with that in any way whatsoever. So they won 54-0 with that. And I remember over the weekend, all kind of newspaper articles, 10-man team beats 11-man team. I even remember one from California that had the headline there. Of course, by Monday afternoon, the Ohio High School Athletic Association tells our superintendent, you can't do that. You've got 11 kids that can play. You have to play 11 people. So guess what? I get to start the next weekend. On Wednesday of that week, the coach has a whole bunch of reporters there. And in the interview, he says, this week we play Atwater High School. Atwater has a chance to win their other league championship, and their coach was my best friend, college roommate. We don't want to hurt them, so we're going to pass every play. And so with an all-state tackle on my right, with an all-county center on my left, all I did was cover up for the whole game. The score was 60-something-0. I learned only 6 or 7 years ago the record for most passes attempted, most passes completed, most points scored, most yardage passing in an Ohio high school game was our team that time. And it wasn't broken until 6 or 7 years ago. So this leads me to be a member of the Ohio High School Football Hall of Fame. And you said, well, what did I do to get in the Football Hall of Fame? You got to always remember, I was that infamous 11th man on the 10-man football team. So there was my first Hall of Famer. Yeah, I played football for 4 years, at least started some games every game. We didn't win any. We won our state championship the junior year, but my senior year we lost 2 games. Nobody talked to us. I played varsity basketball for all 4 years. I played baseball for all 4 years. And then this is how track started for me. On Monday, this coach, who is the same basketball, football coach as the track coach, says, we have a meet in 2 days. Who wants to run track? I have no idea what track is, okay, but who wants to run the 880 yards? I think that's the longest race, so I raised my hand. Later, he goes, who wants to run the mile? Oh, that's farther. I knew I had some leg speed, but not a lot, so I volunteer for the mile. On the way to the meet, again, no practice, okay, I would go to the meet, and they're telling me who you're running against is a state qualifier and a state scorer and the county champs. I'm not going to tell you I was in the race, but at least when they finished, I was in the straightaway. You got to remember, we started at the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Hey, I can run. I'm not too bad. Again, I had a coach took me as a freshman to the state meet so I could see what it was like. I made it to the state meet as a sophomore. I scored as a junior, and I should have won the mile and the half mile as a senior, but I'm going to blame her, all right? I shouldn't have went to my prom on Friday night, the picnic on Saturday, her prom on Saturday night, her picnics on Sunday, the amusement park on Sunday night. I went to run on Monday. I was so dead tired, I lost it. So I finished close thirds in the small class in the mile and the 800 my senior year, and went off to the University of Akron.
That's a great telling, and it's good stories. Let me just ask you if you have impressions. What did your coaches think of you as a competitor, and what did your teammates think of you at that point?
What I remember, one of the reasons I was the coach that I was, is that I had coaches who never really gave me any personal instruction. I had never had a track practice organized by anybody. We practiced baseball, and then I went and ran whatever I wanted to run. There was a Mogador alumnus who encouraged me, all right, he was a runner before. But I did everything by myself. I know that the football, basketball, track, baseball coach liked me because I had heart, I guess that's what you would say. I was willing to push myself. I was willing to try new things. I must have been dedicated to practice what little I did by myself. I was always very individualistic, okay? And I was probably just as enjoyed to be by myself as with my teammates. I don't know. I really don't know too much what they thought about me. I was class president, so I must have been kind of liked somewhere along the way. But I think what the coaches recognized was pretty much what I recognized as a college coach. You got to want to do it. You got to have something, I don't know if it's genetics, but at least through experience, that sets up your ability to risk and try things.
Right. So at being class president, that says there's a requirement for self-confidence, there's a requirement for leadership competence or leadership drive and ambition a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
What years were you then in high school? What years did we just talk about?
56 through 1960. Oh,
Okay.
my gosh.
What athletics in the bigger world were you, apart from playing, did you follow national or international sports of any of those?
No.
Okay.
The television, you may have saw a pro game every once in a while. I hardly ever remember a college game in any way. It wasn't until I went to college that I had any real concept of what was going on in the sports world.
How were you academically, and what was your idea that you would be an athlete in college?
I was a very good student. I'm not going to say the class valedictorian or anything, but, I was pretty much all A's and a few B pluses and stuff. I was concert master.
Nice.
But then again, a small town, okay,
Yeah.
and a rare small town. I went all the way through high school and never knew kids drank beer. Had no idea. One kid in high school smoked. No one talked to him because he was a hood.
And when did you take the idea that you would go to college and continue at athletics in college?
Everybody started telling me that I'm going to go to college. There was no doubt about that for sure. And so I was chosen by my school to represent Mogador for the student athlete of the year in the county. And so when I went to that banquet, the track coach at least talked to me and said, if you come to Akron, I can get you a work-study job, which was great. That was more than anybody ever talked to me before. There was no recruitment of me by anybody else. So, sure, let's go.
At Akron, what sports did you get involved in?
I ran cross country and I ran track and field. It's a long story of how I get to Edinboro, but the Akron U cross country coach really didn't know much about cross country. He was just filling in the job. We never ran any mileage. We really didn't do any hard training, but we had pretty good people. And by my senior year, we were NCAA small college cross country national runners up. Again, wow. I wasn't a star. I was solid 5 fifth runner, but we were good. I mean, for that era, and if you think the farthest I ever ran was 8 miles, I thought he was going to kill me by making us run that far. Seriously, I thought we would never survive that.
What about track?
Track, I ran basically the mile, never broke 4:20, ran 1:55 in the 800, was the All-Ohio runner-up in the 800. As I think the college coach, we never trained. My hardest practice was 4 times 440 yards, 62 seconds. That was with a 2-minute rest. Oh my gosh, how could you be any good? But I learned in college, my best friend was still the best athlete I've ever known. He was the first team high school state quarterback. He was the first team, and this is the large school, first team basketball player and a state champion in the 800 meters. He could run. I could never do that. I had to figure out how all these things were going. And I remember that Bill Heidemann was his name, and he ran 149 back in the day when,
Wow.
Our spikes weighed 2 pounds. Okay. Yeah. I always remember how it was so easy for him. And I wish I had had a coach who could have talked to me about tactics, other things, training, but I never had those things. And so I knew when I was going to become a college coach, I'm going to help my kids.
What tactics did you have? How did you run the 800 meters or the 880?
There were none. I just ran, okay, which is really dumb. The only time, now that you bring it up, the only time I remember I had a game plan was my senior year. We were running another team, Mount Union at the time, who was very good. And we had never lost a dual meet in track. So I was going to have to beat these 2 Pittsburgh kids. All I remember, they were from Fox Chapel or something, okay? We were all scared of them. One was a state champion from Pennsylvania or something. So I was going to have to beat them in order for the team to win. So I had this game plan in my mind. I'm going to follow them for 400 meters. And then when we got to the first curve, again, remember, we started in the middle of the track then, I was going to kick. I was going to use my 50 flat leg speed and kick them down. And I was sure to go. So I'm all set with that game plan, again, all in my own head. Before we got to the 440-yard mark, they took off. They left me. I didn't respond. I was frozen. I just couldn't react. I had no other game plan in my mind but what I was going to do. And to this day, it still bothers me that they went 1-2 and we lost by 4 points. But again, I learned something in my failure of what I could do to help people in other. We always had alternatives in our race plans later on in college.
When did you think about it that you would become a coach?
I suppose it really came down to opportunity to get a teaching job is really what it came out to. I enjoyed athletics, okay. I seemed to have somewhat of a grip on how to get along with people. So when I went looking for my first job, it was a prerequisite to get a job to be also a coach because they needed people to fill in. So I got my first teaching job at Akron St. Vincent High School. That would be 38 years before LeBron James, okay. The first year, an assistant football coach, the assistant basketball coach, and the track coach, and started the program there. The next year, at least, I got to get rid of football and start a cross-country team. There, I got fired. My second year, my contract was not renewed. Oh, how did that happen? When I was first hired at St. Vincent, it was a Catholic school. The nuns had run the school forever. And they're the nuns, they have a ruler in their hand, and they're going to slap you if you're not doing the right thing. But the new principal, Father Leahy, started to do things for the students. He gave them a student government. He gave them some other rights to make some rules up that never were in their control before. And, of course, I fit right in with that, okay? I'm 21 years old. I'm not much older than the kids. But the new principal caused so much trouble with the nuns that they basically got him kicked upstairs. I think he went to the Vatican for a year or something. And Sister Marie takes back over. Well, I'm going to protect my sophomore homeroom from Sister Marie. I mean, stupid. What's going on in my brain? But maybe it was that I taught history that Moses didn't part the sea by his own power. If you saw the movie, no, he didn't stand there and God came down and parted the water. There was a physical reason for doing that. The Crusades weren't all that cool. The Christians weren't the nicest people in the world. Or maybe it was the day I'm teaching biology. The school has no air conditioning. It's very hot. All the doors are open. And I hear Sister Marie just berating a guy and a girl out in the hall. Apparently, the guy had leaned up against the locker, and the girl had leaned up against the locker talking to each other. And Sister Marie is telling the girl how she's going to hell and how the bad person she is. Should I walk outside my classroom and confront Sister Marie? No way, but I do. And a little yelling, and what I later learned, everybody in the whole school heard it. So anyway, my contract isn't renewed.
It's amazing you lasted a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably inevitable coming anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went back to Akron U to get my graduate degree. I'm going to show Sister Marie. I'm going to get my doctorate. I'm going to teach on the college level, and that'll show her I was a good teacher. All right. The reasoning that was put down why I wasn't rehired was I sat on my desk. But anyway, that's another story. So when I went back to Akron U, my original cross-country coach when I ran there gave me a ton of responsibility with the team. And we did very well. We were like third or fourth in the nationals that year. And I had an integral part of what the kids were doing for training and getting along with each other and all those kind of things. I didn't go on with my doctorate. You got to make some money in the world, all right? As luck would have it, the original principal at St. V had come back to the Cleveland Diocese. I went to him and said, I need a job. There's a brand new high school opening up in Cuyahoga Falls, just north of Akron. And I think I can get you a job there. So without even an interview, I became the cross-country coach, the track and field coach, the assistant basketball coach, and a history teacher at Walsh Jesuit High School. Juniors were the oldest class. This really is going to be the direct link to Edinboro, okay? I had my first high school practice and the first real practice. And we're going to run a long distance. We're going to run 4 miles. Oh, my God. And at mile 2, here's this little, tiny, skinny, dark-haired, olive skin-colored kid way out ahead of everybody. And I have to ask, who's that kid? No one knows. He was some introverted junior that nobody paid much attention to. A paper boy is all they knew. His name was Dave Antignoli. Anyway, Dave went on to not lose a meet in his junior year. We didn't run anybody, okay, and they weren't allowed to compete at the district level, state level. And his senior year, he was third in Ohio cross country. But you got to remember, this kid didn't have a lot of leg speed, and they only ran 2 miles high school cross country then. And the course was the flat Ohio State golf course. So third was pretty good. And track came, and Dave comes into my office and goes, Coach, I'm quitting track. What? I'm quitting track. Why? I don't think God wants me to show my talent up by beating other people. I don't think I want to hurt other people. Oh, my gosh. Ruins my track team, if you know what I mean. I mean, the star isn't going to run at all. And graduation time comes. I write Dave a 3-page letter basically saying, I don't know much about God, but I think he wants you to run in college. Try and change your mind. In the meantime, my college cross-country coach becomes the athletic director at Edinboro State College, brought over by the president, who was an Akron U teacher. And Al Hall, that's his name, offers me, do I want a job at Edinboro State College as a cross-country and track coach? Oh, boy, this will show Sister Marie. Absolutely. So I take the job. I sign a contract, $6,900, I think, was my initial salary. Now I'm a big-time coach. I go to an Akron road race in the 1st of August, and who's there but Dave Antignoli? Dave, what are you doing? Coach, I decided what you wrote me was right. I'm going to Akron U and run there. Oh, let's go see Mama Antignoli. They were right off this boat from Italy. Okay, we're going to see Mama Antignoli. And so in a period of 2 weeks, we got Dave admitted to school, my first recruit, okay? And the story goes from there. You cannot talk about Edinboro State College unless you talk about Dave Antignoli being two-time national champion, top collegiate finisher in the 1972 Olympic trials, 10,000 meters, and the purest, the best recruit you could ever have.
Let me just check on a couple of how this thing came to evolve. So Dave did skip his senior year of track in high school?
Yes.
Wow. Yep. I understand his philosophical and religious version of that and pride involved. But your version of competition, did you talk to him at that point in high school?
I certainly did. We sat down and discussed what it was all about. And I left going, this kid is pure of heart. I can't dislike him or be upset about this in really any way. This is what he means. It may not be the correct one, in my opinion. Who am I to say that what Dave thinks is not as correct as anything? So there was never any animosity between us in any way over that stuff. I just had to process it and go on.
Your job as cross-country and track coach, did you have academic duties at Edinboro too?
Oh, yeah. I was a history teacher for sure.
That go, your first season, you've got a star runner that you're familiar with. And how did you figure out coaching?
We've had a number of discussions with alumni of how this transpired. I didn't come into Edinboro with this great detailed philosophy of how to coach or the way to coach. I think it probably was basically coaching by who I was, okay? What I thought was the right thing to do in treating other people rather than what is the most correct thing to do. But in looking at Edinboro State College, I come into a program that didn't have a tradition, didn't have a cross-country team, had a track that was cinders that had no clay binder in it, so every time it rained you couldn't run on it. Of course, there was no indoor facility to train in. And if you know anything about Edinboro weather, and anybody south of Meadville has no clue what winters are like here. When the wind blows off of Lake Erie from the west, northwest, north, it picks up moisture off the lake, it condenses it, and snows from through April. The Indians that lived in this territory called Edinboro the Valley of Perpetual Snow. So I'm not going to have an interval-based training program. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to go with endurance. We can at least run in the snow, and or make a program based on toughness, because it's not going to be easily capable to do the things that, and particularly at that time, the early 70s, of what interval training was, which I still don't adhere to a whole lot. So I'm going to have to develop a program based on, I didn't think I'd ever get any sprinters. I mean, what black kid's going to come to Edinboro and try to, when you get meets called off April 22nd because of snow. So I'm going to have a distance-orientated program, even though that turned out not to be so true by the middle 70s. But and so Dave was my guinea pig. And let me tell you, yes, we were mileage-orientated even then. Things. His junior year, we're going to transition to 10,000, so I'm going to make up this great workout for 10,000. Dave, let's do 100 times 100 meters. That'll make up, that'll come out to 10,000 meters. So there was a two-person relay. No other kid ran 100. Some ran 60 and 50, okay, in between. Meet Saturday, Dave runs, he wins, but he doesn't run very good. Look, Dave, what's the matter with you? I don't know, Coach. My quads are kind of sore and tired. Maybe it was that 100 times that. Anyway, I modified that ridiculousness. But throughout my coaching career, and I don't know if we'll get a chance to get into it, we did a lot of, by what other teams thought, dumb things, crazy things that we did. There was some balance that went on, and I'm sure we'll get into how we trained and how we did things a little differently. But Dave was my guinea pig. Dave was what enabled me to go out and recruit in 1972 and say, look, you can be good at this punky little school. And without him, we'd have never done anything. One more quick story, and it's about Edinboro State and how I guess I influenced or I changed what Edinboro State athletics became. The first year, there was a set schedule, all right? And so we ran dual meets. That's all we did, run dual meets. When I asked the athletic director, what does it take for me to be successful at Edinboro, they said, beat Gannon, the Catholic school in Erie. They were district champs or whatever. We run Gannon. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gannon finished 7th. I guess I'm going to be successful. So that's what we're going to do. The funny story about it is that number 7 guy at Gannon transferred to Edinboro and ran for us for the rest of the year. And I was always proud to say, after 44 years, I guess maybe the highlight of my career was that Gannon never scored against us in cross country in the last 44 years.
Wow. Let me ask you a couple things about the very early 70s then, about how you got a team to nationals. What was the process of qualifying, getting there, and how it was to coach Dave Antagnoli, your relationship there in response to your coaching plans?
Okay. Dave Antagnoli was a sweetheart. He is the absolute example of the perfect runner to have on your team. Mm-hmm. Team-orientated, quiet, almost a 4.0 student, a wonderful teammate for everybody. I had no outward ego to cause any problems within the team. And so after his freshman year, I did a pretty good job recruiting, brought in a whole bunch of freshmen. I remember going to the PSAC meet, and the Millersville coach says, so how good's your team? And I go, oh, we're going to be pretty good. I think we have a chance to win. And he said, oh, you're isolated over there in the West. You don't know how good Westchester is. They are great. They just destroy everybody. You really don't have any clue of how good they could be because you're not in touch with the real runners in the West. So we ran at Slippery Rock. All I remember is they came out onto the road for the last 2 miles, and Dave is like 300 meters ahead, and we have 6 runners in the top 10. And so it's this huge victory, whatever. You went to nationals by just choosing to go. You didn't have to qualify. I don't even remember if we went to the district meet. I'm not quite sure. It was NAI at the time, so I think you could just enter yourself. Mm-hmm. The first year the whole team went, we sucked. They were not ready to run at a national meet in any way whatsoever. Dave was All-American, but the team was no good. We got off the plane to come back to Edinboro. One of the Cleveland kids' parents met him. That kid never came back to Edinboro at all. He disappeared. He just wouldn't respond, wouldn't say anything. 20 years later, I think his father was born in Britain, so he ended up back in Britain after some trouble in the United States and made the British Olympic trials in the marathon. He ran 2:16, and he called me up and go, I just want to apologize for not coming back to Edinboro. And I go, you'd never explained why. What was the story? He goes, you don't understand. I grew up drinking beer, and no one on the team drank alcohol. It just wasn't fun for me.
Wow.
Anyway, no, I'll skip that. Well, what happened to him? We'll let that go. Not a happy life,
Yeah. Let's talk about that first state thing. That was the first cross country PSAC championship.
No, that was our first championship. But they had
Ah.
run cross country for many years
Oh,
before.
okay.
Dave's freshman year, he only finished fourth at the meet, and the reason being he got a stitch in his side and barely made it to the finish line. And from that day on, he never had toast with butter on it ever again, like he did that day.
Let's get into the details of the coming years and the great success that started team wise after that trip. You were figuring out getting your feet firmly planted in your coaching tactics and things. What about nutrition? And what about academics at Edinboro for your athletes before we talk
Yeah.
about the boom
Okay.
times?
Never worried about food. Never talked anything about nutrition. Never brought it up to them or did anything but maybe give them to cook for their dinner is about all we ever did that way at all.
Okay, so nothing in nutrition.
Nothing.
How confident were you getting in your coaching methods with Dave's success in those first couple years?
Well, you're a good coach because you get good runners and they run good, okay? and they make your system work out. There's no doubt that the tradition to be tough and to run mileage and to recruit kids who were willing to buy into this system worked at Edinboro. It was the right thing to do at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
The way I recruited was to look at, and believe me, it would not be anywhere near as easy today as it was in the 70s. The level of recruitment going on by other colleges was nothing like it is today. It's so much more difficult today. But what I did was look for not the stars, but for the kid who was in a program who was decent, good Division II material, but didn't have the background, the coach, the high school, the experiences to train. I looked for the kids that never had trained before. Very good. And so by coming to Edinboro, they bought into this extra hard training and made them much better than in high school. As a matter of fact, one of the best things was to go to a meet like Notre Dame or other big meets where the big-time recruits were, and the Edinboro kids would beat the stars from high school. Everybody would go, how'd you do that? How can they be? They weren't your kids. The kids wasn't any good in high school. Now they're better than what the stars were. So what do you think happened? Of course, it must be that we took performance-enhancing drugs. It must be that all my kids were stupid, okay, and couldn't get into school anywhere else. Or as the Edinboro famous is, we just lost at Notre Dame Invitational, where Edinboro State led every one of the top 7 Wisconsin runners man-to-man until the last 100 meters, and every one of the Edinboro kids got kicked down.
Wow.
Bad coaching on my part. To lose by 8 points. No interval training, no speed training. You run as many miles as you can. So I'm walking with Kevin Foley back to get our sweats. We're happy, okay? We ran very, very well. And as we passed, maybe I won't mention the team, but they're in maize, blue, have a big M on the front of their shirts, all right? The guy yells to us, we'd be good too if we had 40 full rides. What? Kevin looks at me. The kid next to him goes, at least we have to go to class to get our grades. And so Kevin, in his intelligence, yells back, yeah, but I got a 36-inch console color TV for my signing bonus. What did you get? Great, absolutely, right on the number. Well, it only took 3 months before the NCAA was in the athletic director's office, bringing me down, wanting to know about extra incentives that we were giving our kids. Fueled also by the fact that the Harrier magazine at the time ranked us as the number 4 team against all teams in the country, Division I, 3, or whatever else. So the NCAA guy goes, Mr. Hall, the athletic director, how many scholarships do you have? And he goes, none. What? None. Can I see your budget? How much a day do these kids get meal money? $5 or $6 a day. And the guy says, you know what? let's go to lunch. I think we're all done here.
Wow. I got to tell you, I heard those rumors. I had a short career before I got injured at IUP, and certainly we heard those same rumors by the mid-'70s.
My next comment was going to be you went to IUP, so I'm going to, one of your people there was a primary spreader of those rules, without any doubt.
Those rumors, that must have been why I came. Let's talk about some more recruiting stories, because I know Jeff Foster a little bit. He's talked to me about you showing up and winning over his parents, and he said you had one sentence that convinced him to go to Edinboro. Do you remember that?
We could be national champs with you, or...
That's exactly it. He said he wasn't convinced about anything. He liked you, but when you said that sentence, he said, I'm in.
Well, I'd like to know what it is. That'll add to my story. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that is what he said. What were some of the other interesting recruits, and how far did you go to get runners for Edinboro in those early mid-'70s?
Kevin Foley was a wonderful intellectual runner, okay? He was the stabilizing force of that group of people. And if you've already interviewed Muggleton and you've interviewed Foster, you're talking about the far ends of what our team was, okay? They weren't normal. Jeff was an obstinate person. If the professor told him to read chapter 1, he read chapter 11. If the professor told him to read chapter 11, he read chapter 1, whatever. But he never caused me any problem. He was nothing but a team advocate all the way through. Kevin, of course, was a runner-up to whatever the guy's name was, who was an Olympian for Kenya. Dew, I think, was his name.
Oh, right.
He never got to run the Olympics because Kenya boycotted that year. Well, let me tell you two stories, okay, about that team. I believed in individualism, okay? Individuals. I didn't want everybody to be the same. I didn't have any rules except you want to be the best that you can be. That was the only rule I had, and I gave of individual opportunities for kids. And so that meant 70s were in the Vietnam era, okay?
Yeah.
And so I did Edinboro. The rule was everybody had to have a short haircut, no facial hair, and of course there were no earrings or anything like that. And sophomore year, Dave says, Coach, what difference does it make if I wear a mustache? And I go, none to me. Go ahead. So you know what happens? We get away with it. And by the Foley's and Foster's teams, we are freaks. We've got long hair. We've got facial hair of no team uniform. So we'd won in 76. We're at Wisconsin running on my favorite cross country. It's half snowing, half raining. We're doing our wind sprints up and down, and because we have no solid team uniforms, a couple of the kids are in their jeans doing their sprints, okay? So another coach comes over and he goes, is that your team over there? I go, yep, that's Edinboro. He goes, they're dressed in rags. I thought you guys were good. So became one of the defining terms of Edinboro. You were a rag. All runners who didn't make All-American were rags, okay? All-Americans who weren't national champions were rags. National champions who didn't make the Olympic teams were rags. So I was a rag coach. We all were rag, which holds true to today. One of the main characters of all alumni looked like rags, too. It was a combination Old Navy, stolen high school uniforms. We didn't want to look the same. Everybody had a right to be what they wanted to be out there. And that individualism carried over to everything that they did. So anyway, we're running at Wisconsin Parkside at the 3-mile mark. I wish I had the picture I could send to you. It's the most iconic Edinboro picture. If you've ever been to Parkside, you go up this big hill in the first mile. Then you come around to 3 mile and go up like another almost mile-long gradual hill. And the photo taken in the Harrier cover was Kevin Foley taking the lead over the Kenyan runner. And behind him, you can see strung out all 6 of Edinboro's runners in the lead group down through the hill. In my wisdom, I step out on that course and go, Foley, what are you doing? He's an Olympian. Get back. Kevin didn't listen at all. He continued to run, and as he comes down to the last 400 meters, he probably has a 50-meter lead on this guy. Of course, then we learn why he has 3:33 leg speed, and he blew past Foley, relegating Kevin to the NAI national runner-up. But the significance of that story was Kevin was smarter than me. He used his own intelligence, knowing he didn't have enough leg speed, that if he didn't try and get away from this guy early, he wasn't going to kick him down.
Yeah.
This now goes to 1982, where we're running the national championship, and we're coming to the 5,000 meters. We're not that good a team. And Dennis Rice, who is now the coach at Worcester, takes the lead over 2 Division I cross-country runners. Because Dennis takes the lead, Greg Beardsley, who will win the nationals next year, is with him. So just past 3 miles, Edinboro's now 1 and 2. And all I do is I'm going to step out and tell them, no, we're really running well back there. Don't do it. Let's save up for the team. But I remember Kevin Foley was smarter than us, so I don't say a word. Both Dennis and Greg die like pigs in the last half mile, and we lose by 2 points to Millersville. But live and learn.
How was it with that team? How was the team dynamic of those championship teams in the mid-70s, the team cross-country championships, with all those personalities, all those different skill levels and body types, and the attitude was camaraderie? How variable were their performances?
Not much of a problem at all. I don't remember them having any team dynamics that caused any problem. The only ones I can remember, if you had a kid who wouldn't train, who didn't want to train, who refused to buy into this go out hard philosophy, the teammates could be pretty doggone hard on them.
About being tough.
One tradition that came out of that era was, and I'll talk about how we trained in just a little bit, but on Sunday long runs, everything we did was go out hard and hang on. Okay, every practice we did was go out hard and hang on, other than maybe a repetition track workout or something. So on Sunday, the upperclassmen would take the young kids, the freshmen, the newcomers out, get 10 miles away from campus and go, new kid, you know where we are? And they'd go, no, we have no idea. Then you better run hard, because we're running hard on the way home. And would basically leave them. 2 times I got phone calls from freshmen that were lost. I had to go find.
Let's talk about the technical aspects of the way you coached that were different at that time.
I thought, again, mostly from my experiences, having a coach on your side who believed in you, who cared about you, was as important as whatever workout I could do that day. And I seriously believe that there needed to be safety within a team for a runner to be able to find his best. And that means I needed kids to risk. The only way they could risk is if they trusted their coach. And so I made it a priority from day one. Academics was always just as important as what you were doing training-wise. If you weren't going to be good in the classroom, you weren't going to be good to me as a teammate, as a runner either. So there is no difference between how you're approaching getting your education and how you're approaching your training. And I'm not telling you that every kid who came in believed that when I told them that recruiting, okay? But you can find examples of 2 quality kids being relieved of their varsity competition for a big meet because they wouldn't respond to what they needed to do academically. And those 2 of the 3 problems I can think of turned out very well. The other one was nothing but a problem child and ended up somewhere else, which was just as well for us, without a doubt.
Before you get into that, let me just ask you. I know a couple of the guys who did not like school in high school and when they arrived. So Muggleton and
Right.
Jeff Foster both were not fans of school by the time they got there. Are those two of your
Right.
three?
No, no, no. Uh, Jeff was smart. Jeff
Yeah,
has an intelligence about him. Okay, he
sure.
could have done a heck of a lot of things that way. Mark was just I don't want to say a farm boy because he wasn't a farm boy. He didn't quite have the structure necessary to find himself being as good academically as he could be. And of course, he became a success later on his personality and his drive in his economic business that he did as a sales rep. He was very good in doing that. No, those two weren't, I'm not saying they achieved the best they could do academically, but they weren't a problem
Nice.
in any way
Right.
whatsoever. There was no anti-academics from them in any way.
Nice.
Let me add one thing in here, the independence risk thing. One thing that we did different, I know, than everybody else, which everybody tells me I couldn't do today if I wanted to do it, we didn't meet every day for practice.
Huh.
At most, I met them 3 times a week for practice, maybe 4 if we had a meet, okay? And one of those practices was an easy practice. I thought you ran hard and then you needed recovery. So recovery, what's recovery? Just aerobic runs, okay? What do you need me there to make sure you're going to run your 8 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles relatively easy? I don't need to be there. And if you're going to be good, you're going to take this as your own personal commitment to be good. You're going to run those practices by yourself. And when it comes time for a meet, you've invested more in your talent than I would by forcing you to come to practice. I was at 1 morning practice in 44 years of coaching. What's the value of a morning run? You're going to run 6 miles or whatever it happens to be. And it's all just to get the lactic acid out of your system from last night. So why do I got to do that? Why am I going to get up at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock for a practice, make everybody on the team come there when you don't have a class till noon? It makes no sense to me. So I'm giving you your individual, here's what you're supposed to do tomorrow. Okay, here's what you're supposed to do tomorrow night. Go do it. And I honestly believe that level of responsibility given to the individual runners plays heavily in our ability to be the dedicated runners that we could be. There was more investment in being a good runner than making the coach making you do that.
Well, there's some famous sports coaches in other sports too that say, but Chuck Noll famously was not a motivator. He would talk about his technical thing and says, you're adults, get your jobs done, do what you need to do. But there's something I didn't know about your training method of intervals that was different than what I had ever experienced, which was the pulse monitoring.
Oh, oh, another great story I just thought of now that you brought that up. Yeah, I use pulse. Okay, not monitoring with anything on your wrist or any mechanical device. All right. This story comes. It's the 1st of April. There's still some snow on the ground, so we're training in our parking lot in front of Macomb Fieldhouse. We're running up the parking lot, down the parking lot for 400 meters, and I would take pulse at a kid's throat to tell me whether they were running hard enough. I wanted their pulse somewhere at 140, 160, something like that. I wanted to make sure I wasn't running too hard on what interval we were doing because there was no monitoring going on in a parking lot up and down. So, yeah, I was quite concerned that what I wanted to do in many of our runs was to keep on our long runs our pulse right up near maximum oxygen consumption. The more time I spent near maximum oxygen consumption, the more I believe that I fit into the physiological adaptation to stress theory. And that adaptation to stress theory is that your body, your brain doesn't like to hurt, so it's going to modify, it's going to change in order to make you not hurt so much. And of course, if you go and push heavy resistance for short periods of time, you're going to get bigger muscles, you're going to get stronger. If I can run more miles at 170, 175 beats per minute than everybody else, I'm going to have more endurance to go out hard and hang on than other people that are running short reps, short intervals. May not have as much speed, but we're going to be able to run faster at 3 mile, 4 mile, into 5 miles than the other guy is. So we're doing this practice in the parking lot. I have a 400-meter runner that I don't think is giving me everything he can get. So I grab him by the throat. I'm taking his pulse, and I'm going, Walker, don't try and fool me. Your pulse is only 150. You're not running hard. You go, Coach, I'm running hard. Don't give me that crap. I can tell you're not running that hard. Okay, just the normal, everyday kind of stuff. Next morning, I come in. Athletic director calls me up, come to my office. Okay. It was reported by the vice president that you were grabbing kids by the throat. I go, oh, you mean when I was monitoring their pulse? He goes, what? So I explained it to him. All I remember saying is, get the hell out of here. He wasn't mad at me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the first part with Coach Watts. As he said, he can talk for hours. There's lots more to come in future episodes. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Running in the 70s. Voices, stories, and memories of athletes who were running in the 70s. Until next time, wherever you are, keep looking forward and don't forget to look back.